Hello, Escape Collective podcast listener. I'm Dane Cash, and I'm pretty serious about bike racing, so you can imagine just how excited I get this time of year, what with the Tour de France and all. And I'm also excited for you, because if you sign up to join Escape Collective right now, your first month will only cost $1. That means you'll get full access to all of our bike racing news and analysis, tech coverage, and everything else in between here on podcast channels and also over the website. So you can expect us to be pretty busy over the next few months, and if you want to read or listen to what we have to say without hitting paywalls or missing members-only episodes of our podcasts, or if you want to talk bikes with the rest of our awesome community on our Discord server, it's a pretty awesome opportunity to join up. Plus, you'll be supporting everything we're doing here, and we really and truly cannot do this without your support. Head on over to escapecollective.com/TDF to sign up, and remember, if you do it now, your first month will only cost you $1. Hello and welcome back to the How the Race Was Won podcast. The Tour de France is on. It's happening right now.
Tour de France.
Tour de Italy as well.
Tour d'Italia. Tour d'Italia.
Tour d'Italia.
D'Italy.
Bike racing analyst extraordinaire, Cosmo Catalano. How are you?
I am well. Here to talk about some bike racing. The big bike race that everyone talks about, despite the fact
That's
that
the one.
My tangential cycling fan friends really only know so far that Cavendish threw up on stage one. That's about their extent of the understanding the action.
It was televised, so that helps.
It's televised. It was a nice clip that could be on social media.
Yeah.
Broadcasters didn't have to think too hard about it. So
No. We are going to talk about the first three stages. So we're recording on Monday. So after we just watched stage 3, we're going to talk about what has happened so far across 3 great stage battles. And then we'll do a little bit of analysis on where the Vingegaard-Pogačar battle stands at the moment, all of which will become outdated within 24 hours. So you better listen to this right as soon as it gets posted. Well, because they're going to go.
You're jinxing it.
They're going to go up and over the Galibier.
You're going to make tomorrow a nothing day when you say it's going to be out of date.
Possible. Yeah, that's possible. In any case, we'll talk a little bit about it, and then we will do plenty more talking about that as this race goes on and as our show continues to follow it. If you're listening, you already know now that we're on a separate channel from the Tour de France dailies that Kaylee and Johnny and Ronan and Ian will be there are doing from the ground. So make sure you go check those out. Go find those if you haven't already. They're great. They're giving you insight from the scene. Oh, also Joshua Robinson of the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, check that out. But let's talk about these first 3 stages.
Joshua Robinson of the Wall Street Journal, who must be referred to with his full name and full title of his publication.
Absolutely. That's how it works.
All right. Okay.
All right, Cosmo. The first 3 stages of this Tour de France. How were they won?
Étape 1 was won from, well, kind of from a break and kind of not. There was a big break, about 50K to go. Romain Bardet attacks out of the field. Sean Kelly makes fun of him. Nobody follows him. He bridges across to the group where his teammate, Frank Vandenbroek, right? Frank?
Yes.
Yeah. That's not the Frank Vandenbroek who's dead. This is a different Frank Vandenbroek. He's got spaces in his surname.
Correct. Yes.
Drops back, picks him up. They ride together. They let kind of the KOM battle play out, and then they attack, or really kind of grind the KOM hunters, Abrahamson and Valentin Madois, kind of ride them off their wheels, and now they have a solo, not quite solo, but a 2-rider team time trial ahead of the field. It really looks like they're going to get caught. I mean, the gap is down to 11 seconds outside of 1K to go. For reasons we may discuss later, they do not get caught. It is not even actually that close. They have time to do a nice little stage celebration with Bardet taking the win and the yellow jersey, which is a fantastic way to begin the end of his career. Vandenbroek in second. The rest of the pack, not the entire rest of the pack, but the rest of the GC favorites around 4 seconds down. Was that about the margin?
Yeah, they were in the shot. And as you pointed out, it did seem like I thought they were going to get caught.
We may discuss in the takes section about whether or not they should have been caught.
5 seconds was the gap.
5 seconds. Okay.
Yeah. All right. That was stage 1. Stage 2, another hilly day with maybe less accumulated climbing. However, a significantly steeper final climb closer to the finish.
And they had laps.
A chance for the
because it was a circuit.
They had 2 trips up the Côte de San Luca.
Yeah, everyone was extremely nervous, I think with good cause. There's a lot of action has played out on this course, IRL and in Zwift, apparently. I'm told this is a famous Zwift course in addition to being a famous bike racing course. Very nervous first lap. There was a moment where Tadej Pogačar surged forward to get bottles, and people were like, whoa, but it was just bottles.
That was pretty great, though. I mean, Vingegaard, it was like the alarm bells went off. I think that's actually exactly what maybe Phil said, but he was on it immediately. Mm-hmm. And then we saw, he's just getting a bottle. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think he got 2 bottles. I think it was like a pretty substantial refill for like 23K to go or whatever it was. Next lap, we definitely saw UAE kind of take over in the pacemaking. We got Adam Yates up front and really lined things out. Actually created a little bit of a split in the field, roughly where Primož Roglič was. And right as they came up to a chicane, right before the top of the hill, we saw Pogačar attack between the fencing and Adam Yates. Very tricky, definitely intentional, trying to see what he could put between himself and Jonas Vingegaard. Unfortunately, I think the sneakiness of the line also made it not the ideal way through this chicane before the final climb, or the little crest of the climb, and Vingegaard was right there pretty much instantly. Tried a couple more times, Pogačar did on the descent, really kind of cutting hard across late apexes, opening up little tiny bits of space. Vingegaard fully able to close them down every time. And then interestingly, he pulled through, which he doesn't always do. Normally when Pogačar is up to these antics, he's just kind of like, all right, do your antics. I'm going to hold your wheel and we'll settle this in the big mountains. Instead, he kept going, kind of nudged the group forward. There wasn't a tremendous response from behind. I think Carapaz was the primary instigator, and we got Remco Evenepoel also came across. Coming into the final kilometer, they actually made the bridge up to Pogačar. At this point, Vingegaard had stopped pulling. And once Remco got there, Pogačar also kind of stopped pulling, but they still finished together with a decent margin over the rest of the GC group. But again, I think in the takes section, I may have feelings about that too.
221 total behind Kevin Vauquelin, your stage winner.
Sorry, who I didn't talk about at all, which is unfair, but also kind of fair, I think, because for the remaining 19 days of competition, I do not expect him to pop back up. It would be cool if he did, but we all remember Victor Lafay, right?
I don't know that I agree with that, actually. We can talk about that later. Stage 3.
Stage 3 was a more traditional sprint stage. Very hectic. A lot of sprinters looking to do something prior to this big mountain day tomorrow. Shouldn't say big mountain day, but a day with big mountains. Very, very hectic. A lot of mechanicals, a lot of little crashes, and then one big crash around 2.3K to go, I want to say, inside the margin of safety, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people, when that crash happened, set up whether or not it impacted them or otherwise, which I think is actually probably okay. Had a reduced kind of group sprint. Intermarché, very prominent, kind of leading it out, and then sort of disappeared in the final K. And then there was real chaos. I think I saw Sam Bennett actually put himself back into the box because he got into the front too soon. Tried to sneak in behind Mess Pedersen. Pedersen launched kind of, honestly, late for a Pedersen sprint. Didn't really seem to get up to speed. A lot of switching lines, a lot of people moving around, except for Binyam Girmay of Intermarché. Just kind of went straight up the barricades and won pretty handily. Yeah, he is not. Yeah. He's a fast finisher for sure. I mean, we've seen him take down Van der Poel, but it is usually in an uphill sprint or a very reduced sprint, like how we won Gent Wevelgem with kind of a group of 4 riders. This was like definite group sprint vibes despite the smaller
big
numbers.
straightaway.
And he put down the most watts, and going in a straight line helped, but it didn't look like it was the decider for his victory. So
big win for him, historic win for Eritrea, for Africa, and for Girmay. I think interesting result that makes me wonder, okay, do we now maybe start to expect a little bit more from him in these big bunch sprints? Because like you said, this was very much a pure bunch sprint. Obviously, Jasper Philipsen was not there. The pre-stage favorite was involved in a crash right before the sprint, and so he did not contest.
He had already lost Van der Poel, which may have also played a role in that. In fact, there was a lot of footage of Van der Poel blatantly trying to draft his way back in. He crashed at like 7, or he didn't crash. I think he had a flat,
yeah.
7K out or something like that, where it is basically unrecoverable on a finish this fast. And he must have been feeling good because he tried for a good couple of minutes, behind the car at 60 kph, until he finally called it off. Either ran out of gas or someone said, stop that, or you're going to get penalized.
Yeah, he... Philipsen, I think would have was the favorite, and we're going to have to wait and see. I guess 2 stages now before there's another sprint opportunity, whether he's in the form that we kind of expect. But Girmay, your winner today. All right, let's talk about some of the various takeaways. So first of all, let's talk about stage 1. I think I was intrigued by how much chatter there was from some riders and teams and the media about how hard the stage was. Look, Mats Peterson's a very versatile rider, but he doesn't finish in the bunch on like a mountain stage. And I think he's certainly, of the sprinter types, one who's more likely to be there. But this, even for all the accumulated climbing, it wasn't that much of a beast. It's significantly harder than most opening stages of the tour. That's a key thing. Most opening stages of a tour are not this hard. But I just can't really get on board with this being the, super hard day that everyone was talking about. The other big thing was the heat. And I feel like this is I don't know, this might be an unpopular opinion, but look, the weather was hot for sure. I think it was mid-90s Fahrenheit, which is low 30s Celsius. And I think that people from Northern Europe probably think that's horrible. But it's not that abnormal for this part of the world.
No, it's
not, this time of year.
It's literally the longest, sunniest days of the year.
It's not. I think, again, I'm sure it was uncomfortable. The humidity, a big part of it as well. It was a humid day. Well, but this was not an extremely unusually hot day for this time in this part of the world, and I think the guys were ill prepared for it.
Yeah, 100%.
It could be significantly hotter at the tour. This was it was low 30s, I think, low to mid 30s, and there are 40-degree Celsius days at the Tour de France, and this was an issue where I think there were some riders who just weren't prepared, and I think if you're particularly for temperature, that is something that you can see a few days out. So,
well, I think
hats off to those who were prepared, and to those who weren't. I certainly don't wish vomiting on the bike on anyone. that doesn't seem fun at all. But I also don't think it was especially insanely abnormal, the heat.
No, I think the group chat buzz that kept coming up for me was everyone was coming from their altitude camp, and so it was 65 Fahrenheit, 20?
It's 20-ish.
20, yeah, something. Dry, high, comfortable, maybe some mountain mist, but not the stifling humidity you get as soon as you get off the ocean, basically. I agree completely that it was probably pretty predictable. I will say they raced a big group went, and a big group was. There were 2 guys and they were really slugging it out for a couple of guys really slugging it out for the KOM fight. It was hard. It was really, really fought hard. And I think that's good. I think it's probably really confusing to someone who's read this is how you follow the Tour de France article that says that the first week is like not important for GC, or that it's usually sprints. But like, I think it's very good for making interesting things happen. Like you can't, someone might have been confused, but they wouldn't have been bored as long as they had good commentary explaining what was going on. Like that, two teammates riding together, old dude, young dude, like almost kind of passing the torch, like final hurrah deal with the whole field trying to chase them down. That's wonderful. And honestly, like that's the sort of thing I would love to see more of. I would love to see more top 10 GC guys forgetting about the GC. Not that Bardet has completely done that, but really like give up the strong GC finish to make the race hard and interesting and fun and awesome. And like I probably more than other people will be like, well, that would be cool as entertainment, but it would be bad for bike racing. And I think this is a good example of something that is good for entertainment and good for bike racing, because you get the stage when you get the yellow jersey, it makes sense. It's good bike racing and it's cool to watch. And I will always say that a Tour de France stage win is a bigger deal for me as a consumer of products than, first Frenchman or sixth place in GC. Or even first American. Like, no disrespect to the very good American riders who, they're not winning tours, but they're up there in the mix. Total respect. But like, I'm gonna be way more stoked on a stage win than I am on a good GC finish.
I mean, GC Jorg, when he wins this race, maybe that will get you stoked. Yeah. All right, stage 2. I want to push back on your anti-Kevin Vacquelin vibes for a couple of reasons. So first of all, before we even do that, Arkea played a tactically sound bike race, and that
agree.
That's we don't see that often. So they had two guys in the break that worked out well for them. They attacked at the right moment. Vacquelin, I think, was the favorite in this break. At least I thought he was favored to win this from this break. And yeah, they played everything correctly, and he went on and won it. And just the simple execution of a good plan is honestly just not something that Arkea does a lot of. So first ever Tour de France stage win for this team, a French team that has gotten plenty of invites to the Tour de France, finally justifying their participation. All right, Vacquelin himself, 23 years old, he's good. So I think I get that Victor Lafay is making us all like, oh,
I think Victor Lafay is good too. I'm just saying, like, for the larger narrative of this Tour de France.
Sure. I do think, though, that Vacquelin will be getting into more breaks on punchy days. The guy has been in the top 10 of, I think now, at least 2 World Tour stage races. And he was second at Flèche Wallonne. So he is a commodity. We know that he is good. He's got a big engine. He's a punchy climber. I think he's going to be up there again on some of these rolling stages. And obviously Arkea knows that he's good, and they're going to try to put him into some of these stages. I don't know that he's going to win another stage, but I think he's going to be pretty active. And I think he's a rider to pay attention to, and maybe have a little bit more faith in him than Victor Lafay to perform.
I agree with everything you said. But I want to highlight that there was not a lot of pursuit going on this stage. I think the break kind of, I don't say they got I don't think they had the stage given to them. They still have to work really hard. They had to ride really hard. As you said, Arkea rode very intelligently. But I think on other punchier stages with a more tired group and a more defined GC battle, I think we may see riders a little more interested in maybe some of the bonus seconds, maybe more aggressively working towards the stage win versus trying to save what they can save for the days that are really going to matter from a GC perspective. And kind of looking at the battle we saw between Pogačar and Vingegaard, like you could definitely see that it was not completely flat out. And I think that played into Vacquelin's hand very well. And I don't necessarily know that that's going to happen the rest of the race. But again, I have no intention to poo-poo the man. I think he did very well, and I would be pleasantly surprised if he popped up, taking some stages later in the race. I think this is this is this unorthodox first week provides a lot of opportunity for guys like him to do awesome stuff. And chapeau, but I think this is his moment.
And I think you point this out. I think it helps that the unorthodox first weeks. Some of these stages, if you look at them, the profile to me for both 1 and 2, these are breakaway friendly profiles. However, because it's stage 1 and 2, you don't necessarily expect it to go to a break because of the simple fact that generally speaking, that early on in a race, you're going to see less leeway given to a break. Because these riders have not gone so far behind in the GC yet that the GC riders are comfortable letting them go. But they did. And that is an interesting talking point. This is something that we talked a little bit about before the race, how I think at the Giro, when Tadej Pogačar just crushed everybody and won 6 stages, constantly chasing down the breakaways on breakaway-friendly days, I think that gave viewers a sense that, oh, they're going to do it again at the Tour. And this is not the Giro. The field is so much stronger. No disrespect to the Giro, but this is a much stronger field. And Tadej is not going to apparently just try to chase everything down so that he could win 6 stages, because I think they're a little bit more conservative about it. They want him to win the GC, and they feel a little bit less confident about Tadej winning the GC at the Tour, rightfully so, than they did at a Giro where his biggest competitors were Geraint Thomas and Denny Martinez. So let's talk about the GC.
Yeah. I was going to actually kind of go riff off of that, kind of Tadej not doing his hijinks and winning as many stages as possible, because I think we maybe saw a little bit of that here.
Let's take a break before we get into
that. Fine. Do a break.
All right, hijinks.
Yeah,
tell us more.
I think Tadej did some Tadej hijinks and didn't really have a game plan for afterwards. I think his plan was to attack Vingegaard, and if he could keep up, kind of hector him about pulling through and kind of play those mind games. And instead, Vingegaard pulled through, and suddenly Tadej Pogačar was off the front with the only person he's really concerned about on GC, kind of given a choice between getting caught in the final kilometer, meaning that their attack was mostly for naught, or pulling all the way to the line and potentially, losing a psychological battle for a non-important stage placing.
Well, I just think that for Pogačar and his whole team, they are, I am assuming, going into this stage with the game plan of, let's see if Vingegaard is in shape. And I think that was the reason that Pogačar went when he did, tried to make something happen when he did. Because if Vingegaard is not in shape, then knowing that on stage 2 is quite useful.
Yes.
And getting him out of the way early.
I agree.
That didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And it was apparent basically from a second or two after the attack that it wasn't going to happen.
Vingegaard was on it right away.
Pogačar kept pushing. He was, like I said, he was trying stuff on the descents, like on the corners, which it would, I think, side note, like people who think that going downhill, riding as fast as you can is easy, that pulling through in that situation is easy, are incorrect. It is, in fact, incredibly easy to lose a wheel when you are going 50 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour down a hill. Like, you let a bike length open and suddenly you are taking 50 miles per hour of wind in your face when before you were drafting someone else. So you have to go really, really hard. Sometimes, though not for these guys, harder than you have gears for. And it is, unless you're the rider in front of you makes a mistake and you can come back on the corner, it's almost impossible to close this down. We actually saw it at one of the early season women's races. This was how Niamh Fisher-Black won, not Burgos, but one of the Spanish races. Pulled away on a descent.
It was the Setmana Ciclista Valenciana, right?
It sounds correct. Pretty early in the year.
Stage of it.
Like March or February?
Yeah, stage 3 of that in February.
Yep. Vingegaard deserves a lot of credit for being very good at riding his bike, because Pogačar was riding aggressively down that hill, like throwing the bike over, and Vingegaard matched everything perfectly. Like, it wasn't just that he's fit. He is mentally fully engaged in this race. Kind of, there are no weaknesses. And in fact, he He made Pogacar overplay his hand coming into this finish. He kind of put him in yellow when I don't think he wanted to be in yellow. Because he definitely, once he got caught by Remco and Carapaz, he just kind of slithered to the back of the group and hoped through some trick of fate he wouldn't get the yellow jersey. And then today, when there was a crash in the final kilometers, he was just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Yeah, right.
Someone take the bonus seconds. Get this jersey off my back.
The speed with which Vingegaard reacted, and yeah, everything else involved, the talent to descend and stick with Pogacar, all that stuff, I think it shows us a Vingegaard that is significantly more likely to contend than I think a lot of people thought. Now, as I pointed out, this show is going to come out, and 24 hours later, this whole thing could be thrown out the window. But as of right now, as of Monday, around noon here in Colorado, I think Vingegaard looks way better than a lot of people thought that he was going to look. And I would have loved to have seen, I should have pulled this up because you can kind of track this. I would have loved to have seen the like real-time odds for his overall win as he was responding to the Pogacar move, because I bet they got a bit shorter in that 5-minute stretch as people then start to realize, okay, he's clearly fit. He's healthy. Is he fit enough to win the Tour? We don't know. We'll probably know a little bit more we'll definitely know a little bit more by the next time we record. But I do think that was a huge boost, probably morale-wise, for that whole team, knowing how much healthier he was than I think a lot of people expected. I also think the team probably has some sense of how healthy he is. And the team probably has some sense of how healthy Wout van Aert is.
Even without the control center?
Even without the control center. Because at some point they've been riding, they've got numbers to look at, and both Van Aert and Vingegaard approached this Tour de France talking about it as if, in Vingegaard's case, it was, I'm just lucky to be here. Everything after this is a bonus. And then in Van Aert's case, he said he hasn't been in worse shape coming into the Tour ever. I think that's how he said it. Basically, both of them downplaying their fitness coming in. Van Aert was pretty darn good on stage 1. And Vingegaard looked great. And if we go through the rest of this race and Van Aert, wins some stages and Vingegaard does in fact contend for the overall, I don't know that I'm going to be listening to Visma anymore. I feel like we will have seen that they were not being fully honest.
It's like we'll see. Tom Brady playing his entire career with probable shoulder in the injury report.
Exactly. It's yeah. And you can only do that so many times before people start to realize that's not true. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. We'll know a little bit more by Tuesday, because let's talk. Well, before we talk about what's coming up, let's also talk about Biniam's sprint. I think we should point out this is another example of something that we talked about a bunch on this show, and going back to previous shows that we have done. How I like to see it as sort of a bad lead out being worse than no lead out. And you saw this within a single team on stage 3, because Intermarché was on the front too early for Gerben Tissens, who's a fast sprinter. And it was early enough that he basically bailed on trying to do anything with his own lead out, because he still had 500 meters to go or so. And so, yeah, he said, all right, I guess I'll just tuck back in, or maybe he couldn't even keep the pace with the guys who were coming past. Meanwhile, Biniam Girmay, his teammate, had lost touch with his own team and was just surfing the wheels. And in the end, it was Biniam Girmay who took the win, because he surfed the right wheels. He found the right wheels. He was in the cluster of guys who actually did contend, the Mess Peterson, Fernando Gaviria cluster. That's where Girmay was. So his own teammate had a solid but way too early lead out. Had support, but it was way too early. And being let off too early is way worse than just surfing the wheels.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw this with Bennett too. It's like as Intermarché called it off, and suddenly Decathlon was too far forward, he looked over. He's like, hey, maybe I can get in behind Pedersen and start this again in a couple seconds. And I think a lot of other people were on that plan. It's hard to lose speed and then regain speed. Like it's not, like it's a similar situation to descending where like you're going really, really fast and it's really, really hard. It's way easier to not lose speed than it is to gain it, right? And so even the kind of pedaling less hard and moving over was an issue. I was amazed how many people were trying to get to Pedersen's wheel and were willing to go like substantially out of their way. Arnaud Delis actually was in front of Girmay right before he launched his sprint and went visually from above. And it's so hard to tell like what he's seeing in the group, but it looks like he went around the back of Stuyven in the lead out to get over to Pedersen when he had an open space in front of him and just didn't want to go. And then half a second later, Girmay goes and
Girmay was there,
walks away from everybody. So
yeah. I thought also that Fernando Gaviria did a pretty surprisingly strong ride. It's been quite some time since he has contended at this level. And he's a rider who 5 years ago seemed like he was going to be the next big sprinter. And then that didn't really happen. He really kind of, he fell off. Tailed off, and COVID kept hitting him over and over again that one season. But yeah, this is to me a really promising showing. I mean, even at the Giro, like a month ago, he didn't even finish any higher than fourth. It was his best finish at the Giro in any sprints. So this was really strong from Gaviria. Yeah, it'd be interesting if Movistar, if he can win a sprint stage for Movistar, that would be. Well, just cool, because Movistar not exactly a sprint team historically.
Movistar it always just seems to be in chaos.
Yes, I think that's an accurate description.
I guess everyone is cool with that. The Movistar has sponsored them for like a decade now, and I mean this has been apparent for a long time.
Maybe Chaos sells phone plans.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm not. Are they prepaid? Are they like burner phones, or do they have like recurring plans too?
No, they're like a massive telecom that you can get recurring, like
Okay, yeah, like Verizon, but like Spanish, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. For both Latin America and
for
Spain.
Cool. The
I mean, they're huge.
Hispanosphere.
I believe that is a real word.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about what's coming up. Because as we keep saying, by the time you hear us again, you will have seen assumedly, some GC action. Am I jinxing it by saying that?
I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. They're going to climb the Galibier on Tuesday.
They're going to climb Sestriere and then the Galibier. These are huge climbs.
It's for being this early in the tour, it's 4 stages in, you don't usually get those big name climbs, but just based on the geography, it makes plenty of sense because they're going from Italy to France. And when you do that, generally speaking, you're going to cross through some mountainous territory. I think that the fact that the stage finishes on a downhill, it doesn't finish on top of the climb. And then just the fact that the Galibier, for all of its fame and as hard as it is, it's not the steepest of climbs. It's pretty steep. It's steeper than the finish is steeper than like the gradient of the average.
That's something that I think they should, instead of having it be the like HC with a surprisingly shallow gradient, they should just ignore the valley section at like 2% and then do the easily Cat 1 climb at 7%, which it is once you turn out of the valley. So,
but even 7 is like, there's a chance that it's not steep enough to like create a gap between Vingegaard and Pogacar. So there's the question.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
I think there's a gap for sure between them and everyone else. Maybe Evenepoel and Roglic hang on, but Roglic was the big loser from stage 2. Literally in terms of time, he lost the most time of those big names because Evenepoel finished. He did end up doing a big pull. He and Carapaz ended up finishing with.
Give Remco a shout out since he is my pincushion for GC contender who is better at other things, but he rode very well on
he did. He rode
2.
Smart.
Deserves credit for that.
And it was. But Roglic, on the other hand, lost, he and everyone else basically lost time. I think he's got to show quickly that he is worth, all the hype. And the Galibier, I think it's a good climb for him. It gives him a chance to use his big engine. But yeah, then there is going to be a descent, which means good chance for a Pogacar stage win, maybe good chance for a Tom Pidcock stage win.
Ooh, I hadn't considered that option.
Or any other of the good descenders. I think there's a non-zero chance that Wout van Aert is still there. Couple of good descenders who could be in the mix. And maybe we'll have a better sense of the GC battle after Tuesday. Sprinters Day to follow. Another Sprinters Day to follow that. I think we may get a little bit of Jasper Philipsen action. Jasper Disaster. And then a time trial. And this one is I don't like using the word easier, but in terms of the, hills.
I mean, it's shorter and it's not hilly.
It's shorter, it's not hilly. And I think it's going to be a power TT kind of day. So that'll be interesting to see one, facet of the Tour de France field, the contenders field in 2024, and also just generally since like 15 years ago, is that all the big star GC riders are all elite time trialists. You get potential winners among basically all of the big names for this GC battle. I don't think anybody would be shocked if Vingegaard, Roglic, Pogacar, or Evenepoel won this time trial. So yeah, that's stage 7. Stage 8 looks kind of sprintery, but like it's a fair bit of up and down. Could be a breakaway day. And then we've talked about this before, but stage 9 is the gravel day. And I think we're both pretty excited about that.
My fingers are crossed that it will be interesting. I think I just feel a little burnt from the Giro, but
yeah.
I really like it when non-climbs and non-time trials factor in heavily in a GC race. I think it's too easy to get lulled into this Grand Tour notion of cycling that is, I think, fundamentally uninteresting. And it's good to have these like a bucket of ice water in the face to remind people what makes bike racing awesome. It's things that break up that monotony, for lack of a better word.
A bucket of Chemin Blanc.
Is that
white?
You serve chills?
White roads in French.
Oh, gotcha.
For me, I totally agree with that, and I like this more than, for instance, a Roubaix stage, which we sometimes get Roubaix stages, because so often those Roubaix cobbles are. It's kind of a crapshoot whether someone crashes, either you crash or someone crashes right in front of you, you get it flat, whatever. And I think the gravel's a little bit less likely to have that random chaos and a bit more likely to have fun chaos. But yeah, we'll see.
The thing I like about gravel relative to cobbles is the roads are almost always wider. So there's a lot less, like a narrow, wet set of cobbles is very, very, it's almost too easy for 3 or 4 riders to, the first 3 riders on a corner can go around the corner. Everyone else has to hit the brakes. And gravel, you have a lot more kind of riding the bike. You have a lot more, the person in front of me isn't confident, so I'm going to try and slide in him a little bit, or like I'm more comfortable drifting my wheel than other people are. There's just more room on the road for things to happen. And I think a lot of the time on the cobbles, like you said, it's someone crashing in front of someone else. And not that doesn't happen on gravel. We all remember Alaphilippe, cartwheeling at Strada Bianca a few years ago. But in general, the racing is less horribly random and more kind of skills and conscientious risk oriented.
Yeah, totally. And that is the last stage before rest day number 1. So by the time that finishes, we will, a couple of things. First of all, the riders get to have a break. Good for them. Second of all, we get to talk about where the GC stands, and I would think there will be some action on the GC. I mean, looking at these stages, they do, to me, seem to favor Pogacar more than Vingegaard in this first week and change. So it'll be interesting to see whether Pogacar is wants to and tries to and is ready to, have yellow by the first rest day. We'll see. With that, I think we can close the book on the first 3 stages and our first Tour de France show. And next time we are here, we'll have so much more to talk about. In the meantime, go check out the Tour de France Daily Pods. from the ground as they make their way from Italy into France. And we'll be back soon enough.
Has the coffee been better? I feel like I heard, even in Italy, that the coffee wasn't good at the tour. And that kind of hurts me a little bit.
I'll have to send them a message and ask. I wasn't sure. I certainly, like, as you're pointing out, I would assume the answer is yes. Although they're leaving that behind now.
No, I know. They have to go and do the regular Tour de France. Now it's just boring old Tour de France. It's no longer.
It's just France.
Novel and interesting.
All right. That's it for us. And we'll be back in a week. I'm Dane Cash. And who are you? What was this?
I'm Cosmo Catalano. That was the How the Race Was Won podcast.